It's the Competition Engineering 3-way adjustable drag racing shock. Now we're going to show you from the time you take this thing out of the box, some of the little things that you need to do to the shock, so once you do set it up that you know that you've got the proper setting and exactly what the different settings mean. So over the next few minutes we're just going to go step by step from beginning to end and have this thing pretty much ready to go to bolt in your car by the time we're done. We have some grommets in here to go to the top of the shock that usually goes into the body. And we're going to pull the shock out of the box, and here we go. Now obviously, new part, you're excited to start playing with and see how it works. Well, what happens with a shock is that when they sit flat on the box and are shipped or inventoried on a shelf, air will build up inside the shock. Well, what happens is the first time you go to extend it or compress it, it may not feel consistent, or you adjust the settings on it, they may not even feel like they're working. What you need to do is bleed the air out of the valving first. So now once you start adjusting it, you actually get a very consistent and accurate feel of exactly what the shock is doing. So the first thing you do is you're going to put the shock in the position that it would be in the car. And simply extend the shock all the way out to the end and then compress it. You're going to do this about 5 or 6 times. And what this does is it gets any of the air pockets that are built in the shock out of it. So now you'll have a consistent feel from top to bottom, extension and compression. Once you've accomplished this, now we can go start looking at the different settings the shock has, and we're actually going to be able to extend it and compress it and get a consistent feel to exactly what we're trying to accomplish with our 3-way adjustable shock. Exactly how does your Competition Engineering 3-way adjustable drag shock work? Well, simply this. You're able to adjust the valving rate at which the shock compresses and extends. That determines the transfer weight on the car when it's leaving the starting line. Now on the front of the car, your extension rate will actually determine when the car leaves the line how fast the nose of the car comes up, thus transferring weight to the rear of the car. Your compression rate determines, once the car is moving, how long it takes for that nose to come back down to its level position, thus how long it's transferring the weight to the rear. Now at the rear of the car, your compression rate is determining when that weight does come back there from the front coming up, how fast are we loading the suspension in the rear tires of the car, thus planting the tire on the track. Too slow, may not get enough traction. Too fast, you actually may compress the tire and suspension so quick, it'll actually try to recoil, thus going into tire spin again and losing traction. Now the extension part on the rear is going to determine, once the car is moving down track, as the front end is coming down, how fast that rear end is recoiling back up off the spring from the compression when the car left the starting line. So if you think about it, you got 3 settings at the front and 3 settings at the rear. By having a CE shock on all 4 corners of your car, you'll actually have 9 different settings that you can work with to get the transfer of the weight of that car to be at its optimum performance. Alright, now we're going to set up this shock with one of the 3 settings that we're looking for. Now the most important thing to know about doing this is simply this. Make sure this shock is compressed all the way, because there is a tab in here that'll actually make the clicking noise that you're going to hear and feel that needs to be down at the bottom. If this thing's up in any way whatsoever, you are not going to feel or hear the clicking. Once we know that it's compressed all the way, you're going to turn this thing in a clockwise motion by holding the body of the shock with your hand and keeping this still. Now the rest of the shock, there are 2 flats here that if you need a wrench you can grab it and turn it, or in this case I'm able to grab this flange and I'll be able to rotate it. Now there's 2 things we're going to be listening for. Clicks, and you're going to be feeling the clicking happening when you're rotating it. The first click is the most distinctive. It's loud and you'll feel it. The second click is a fainter sound, and you'll still feel it, but not as much as the first click. And the third setting is, again, a faint click and a faint feel to it. If you go around to the 4th time and you feel and hear the much louder click, you know you're back at the regular setting, which is our first setting. So we're going to simply take this thing and turn it. There was a faint click. There's our regular setting. So now we know we're at regular. The second click, that would be our firm. Third one is extra firm. And then when we turn it, we're going to go back to our regular setting. That's simply it. That's how you're going to find your 3 adjustments in your shock. It's labeled on the side regular, firm, and extra firm, just as a reference. But there's nothing that you're going to line up on any part of the shock to find this. It's simply by sound and feel is how you're going to determine which of the 3 settings that you have. If you're not feeling any of these settings, go back and compress and decompress the shock to get some of the air out of the system. And again, ensure this thing's all the way compressed and it's standing straight up like it would in the car. Well, we hope over the last few minutes we'll be able to clarify some things for you on your 3-way adjustable competition engineering drag shock. You now know that when it comes out of the box, there's a couple things you need to do to ensure that once you start looking for the right setting, that everything's been taken into consideration as far as removing the air and exactly what it takes to actually turn this shock and know exactly what setting you have. If you have any questions about application or performance, you could always call the Moroso Tech Department or go to moroso.com or competitionengineering.com for more information. Thanks a lot.